Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here, back with another video, a very long anticipated video. I apologize for taking the last couple of weeks off. I did have 2 surgeries and some family things to attend to, but I am back and ready for videos. We're going to be doing the hardest games of 2020 in this video, the easiest games of 2020 in the next video, and then we'll be kicking off the year strong with Hitman and The Medium and a couple of games in February as well. Don't worry, lots of videos coming out this year. Now I'm going to try to skip the boring introduction this year. If the game took a long time and was very difficult, it was considered for the list. I tried to make a list of games that people have actually heard about, as to avoid just a bunch of indie games being in the list that no one has ever played. Now I do set up a really boring formula to calculate all these positions for me, but what you need to know is that difficulty is more important than time played. There are a couple of honorable mentions this year as well. We have FIFA 2021 and NHL 2021 being pretty hard sports games, but not quite breaking the top 10. Additionally, we have Skater XL with probably the dumbest achievement ever created. Also, I will be looking at this list from the perspective of completing all of the achievements in the game. Now, we'll kick off the list at number 10 with a game you may not have heard about called Neon Abyss, which is a roguelite run and gun game available on Xbox Game Pass. And this one is going to take at least 50 to 60 hours, but the reason it's ranked on our list is because it's actually extremely difficult. You'll need to complete the game on the hardest difficulty, which is called Abyssal difficulty. You'll need to also play the game for a total of 1,000 runs. You can fail out pretty fast, but it still takes a while. And the hardest part is you need to complete an entire run without losing any hearts. The genre in itself is an extremely difficult genre, and beating a game in this genre without even getting hit is almost always impossible. We go from one Xbox Game Pass roguelite to another. This time we're talking about Undermine, also incredibly difficult and very similar in style to the last game we talked about, just a lot longer if you want to grind out the full completion, taking up to 150 hours. You'll also need to complete modes without dying, and you'll need to complete the game without any upgrades, which is extremely difficult. Congrats if you got this one done. Next up, in the number 8 position, we have Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and this is a solid completion to have on your list. Now, the first steps are pretty easy. You're going to want to play through the campaign, make sure you do all the side missions, both of the endings, and you'll have to beat it on the hardest difficulty. Not too bad at all. Then what you'll have to do is play a bunch of the multiplayer. You'll have to win 50 games and try a couple of the different new modes. Also not too bad, probably 10 to 20 hours there. Then you'll have to do a little bit of zombies. Again, not too bad. You'll need a good team and some coordination probably to get through the entire Easter egg, which is actually a lot of fun. But the kicker and what makes this a long and hard completion and very skill intensive is the final achievement in the Dead Ops arcade mode. Now, I do think it's unfortunate that the achievement that is going to hold most people back from their completion is in the mode that is played the least. But for this achievement, you'll need to complete 64 rounds of the Dead Ops arcade mode, which takes roughly 4 to 5 hours. Also, when the game first came out, there were a couple of glitches people were using to make it a little bit easier, but those have recently been patched out. The next game on the list is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, another game that was patched, but this time the game actually became a little bit easier. Now, first off, you're going to have to just complete the campaigns in the first and second game, get 100% of the goals, and make sure to get gold medals in all of the competitions. That is pretty easy for most Tony Hawk players. After that, you'll probably want to focus on unlocking the alien character as well as Officer Richard, which isn't too bad, but definitely involves a little bit of practice if you're new to the series. Where it starts getting a little bit harder is when you have to actually do all of the gaps, although there are plenty of guides out there to help you. Now, the pièce de résistance is the Got There achievement or trophy for completing all of the hard Get There challenges, and I think this is where all of the skill comes in. Every park in the game has a hard Get There challenge, and for this you'll need to do a combo with a bunch of different gaps in it. For some levels it's pretty easy, but for others it is extremely frustrating unless you're pretty good at the game. So you'll need a lot of skill and a lot of practice with the series to make sure to get these. And once you are done these, you might want to focus a little bit on the multiplayer achievements, but last but not least, you'll have to reach level 100 in the campaign, which could take hundreds of hours if you play normally. And currently, after being patched, it takes around 50 hours if you are just trying to focus on grinding your levels as quickly as possible, which kind of sucks considering if you get everything else out of the way, you still have this giant hurdle to cross, which is why it ranked so highly on our list this year. Out of all the games on the list, this is the only one this year that I have completed personally, and I'm extremely proud of it. Maybe I'll also complete Call of Duty Cold War in the coming weeks. The next game on our list, which kind of surprised me, is Star Wars Squadron. And this shouldn't be a big surprise though, as EA does tend to put really long and hard lists in their Star Wars games. But this is a vehicular combat game where you play as a Star Wars pilot, and you'll have to do a bunch of different tasks. None of them sound particularly difficult, but they have a very low completion rate, as they actually take either a really long time or involve a decent amount of skill and or patience. You will need to complete the story mode on the hardest difficulty, which is Ace. The actual mode is not particularly long, but it is pretty difficult. Additionally, you'll have to play an absolute ton of online, killing thousands upon thousands of other players. The next game on our list is a game that I think is truly underappreciated, and that is Crash Bandicoot 4, which just to start off has an absolute onslaught of content. There are so many levels and so many things to do. So first things first, on your way to the completion, you're going to want to complete all 44 of the in-game levels. And then each level has an inverted variant, which makes it go backwards, but also adds some sort of either visual or gameplay effect. That brings us to 88 total levels. On top of that, there are flashback levels you can unlock. There are 27 of those, bringing the total amount of levels in this game to over 100. Now, for each of these levels, at least one time per level, you will need to get a perfect relic. Now, you might be wondering what that means. Well, you'll need to grab all of the boxes in a level, and you cannot die in any way throughout that playthrough. These are very hard, and just getting all of your perfect relics out of the way is probably more than most people are willing to do. However, if you do beat all of the levels, get all of the perfect relics, all of the gems, and complete the flashbacks, you will get the 100% ending in the game. However, you are not even yet close to being done, because the hardest part still awaits us, which is earning a platinum time trial on all of the time trials in the game. These are extremely hard, even to do one or two of them, and we'll have to do them for every single level in the game. When this game originally came out, I really thought I had a chance at getting the 1000 Gamerscore, but once I started trying to do a couple of the time trials, I realized there was absolutely no chance for me. In the original trilogy of the game that came out a few years ago, we just had to grab gold medals, which were kind of hard already. But now in this game, in Crash Bandicoot 4, we have to get all platinums. After that, you can get the 106% ending to the game and be one of the very few people who have completed it fully. The next game on our list is Gears Tactics, which is from a series that has graced the hardest games of the year list many times before, but this time it is not the #1 hardest. Now, a lot of people did play this on PC, but it is also available on the console and is an incredibly hard game to complete. Personally, I played for around 25 hours and have less than half the Gamerscore available. Now, this game falls under the tactics genre, which as a genre is a pretty difficult one, and a genre that guides can't really help you in because a lot of things are up to chance and probability. Now, to give you a rough idea of how tough this game is to complete, you will need to beat the 15 to 20 hour campaign on the insane difficulty, which isn't too hard, but you'll also have to do that without losing a single unit, and that's where it becomes tough. When the game first came out, there was a strategy where you could kind of copy and paste your saves just in case someone died. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to assume you're doing it legit. it actually still gets harder from there. You'll need to do an entire playthrough with Iron Mode enabled. In the Iron Man mode, if you fail one single time throughout the 20-hour campaign, your entire save is deleted and you will have to restart the game from the very beginning. Luckily, you can play this on one of the lower difficulties, but I imagine there's still quite a bit of stress during the boss battles, even on beginner. Last but not least, you'll need to grind out a total of 10,000 kills in the game, which will help you unlock the seriously tactical achievement. And with that, you will have completed the base 1000 for the game. There's also a new jacked game mode, which is a DLC, which also takes about 20 hours, but that is comparatively easy when compared to the base game. The next game on our list is Tetris Effect Connected, and this is actually a game that I thought about not including because it was available on PlayStation, but the game has changed and the achievements are different from the trophies. The PlayStation completion from a few years back is actually harder than even this one, but this is hard enough to break our top 3. Now, I don't think there's too much to explain here. This is a Tetris game. There are some differences that make it a little more flavorful than classic Tetris, but you're just going to need to be ungodly at Tetris in order to complete this game. And you will need to get an S rank in every single mode, in every part of every screen in the entire game. And that is not easy. You're going to need to play with extreme precision, extreme speed, and with extreme planning ahead. You're going to need to be very, very good at Tetris, and you're also going to have to play a very, very long time in order to get to level 100 and rotate blocks 100,000 times. If you've completed this game, congratulations, you will be forever better than me at Tetris. Now, the second hardest game of 2020 is Deep Rock Galactic, which takes at least 100 hours and an extremely skillful team of players. Now, the first thing I want to say about this game is that I think it's severely underrated, and I highly recommend that you try it. Now, the next thing I'll say is that I've played this game for 20 hours and have 200 Gamerscore in it. So if you're looking for easy Gamerscore, definitely stay away from this one. Now, Deep Rock Galactic is a first-person shooter strategy co-op mining game where you play as dwarves who go on space missions to mine for rocks. It sounds kind of like a little bit of a silly premise, but it's pretty cool. There are also some RPG elements that you can unlock better equipment as you level up. But for the completion in this game, you're going to be focusing on completing tasks, and as you complete those tasks, the missions get harder and harder and harder, and you can pretty much play this game for an infinite amount of time, as it is kind of procedurally generated, and every time you play a mission, it will be a little bit different from the last mission you played. When you launch into a mission, you can also choose a difficulty modifier. You can play on the base difficulty, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star. And for one of the hardest achievements in the game, you'll need to do 5-star missions in a row without failing out. This is where most teams are probably going to get stuck for forever. There are also raid-style levels called deep dives, which take about an hour per mission. Most of the missions in this game are pretty long. And then you'll actually have to get a gold promotion with all 4 of the dwarves, which just takes an exceptionally long time. We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of missions. Congratulations to you if you are insane enough to go for the completion in this game. Now, the number 1 hardest game of 2020 is Microsoft Flight Simulator, coming to Xbox in 2021 with presumably the same achievement list. And this achievement list is literally bonkers. It is made for super fans of the series that plan on playing this game for the next few years as their only game. In fact, if you told me that you were going for the completion in this game, I would probably tell you not to. Instead, invest that time in actual pilot school and just go fly a real plane. Because it takes so long, you might as well just do that instead. Now, we'll start off with what is arguably the largest learning curve in video game history. you have to learn how to fly a plane, and although you can turn on a lot of the assists, it is pretty difficult to get accustomed to the controls and how things handle, and you will need to be able to graduate to the level that you are able to comfortably fly without a lot of the assists. Now, starting out in the game, you're just going to want to try a couple of the planes out, view a couple of landmarks in large cities. You'll have to complete a 300-mile flight with every plane in the game. You'll have to complete a 300-mile flight from parking spot to parking spot without any assists. This includes doing things like the radio calls to the radio towers to make sure you can request landing. This includes turning on and off your engines in the correct order. It's pretty intense and definitely for lovers of flight simulators. You'll also have to complete every activity in the game, many of which are easy, but there are a couple of bush trips where you fly tiny prop engine planes through the wilderness and just spot things like rivers and mountains as your guidance. You'll need to educate yourself about knots and headings and compass error and a whole bunch of other things to actually be able to complete a lot of these trips. And the kicker at the very end is that you need to land at 500 different airports and fly for a total of 1,000 hours. Now, luckily for the 1,000 hours, you can turn on infinite fuel, pick up a large jet, and go on autopilot and basically just fly around the world 8 hours at a time. But for landing at 500 airports, you will need to actively take off and land at 500 airports, unique airports in the game. The word simulator in Microsoft Flight Simulator is not lost on this game, and in many instances, it just feels like one giant menu in the best way possible. I absolutely loved my time with this game, but there is no amount of love I could have for flying for me to consider completing this game, which makes it our #1 position. Now, before I wrap up, I would like to ask you guys in the comments down below to let me know what the hardest game you completed in 2020 was. I'd love to read through those. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful, and don't forget to drop a like. A special thank you to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show, and hopefully I see you soon. Peace!